Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
And I'm Patrick Guerra.
And Patrick, tonight, if you didn't know by the intro already, we are here to talk about a little film from 1987, a sequel directed by Sam Raimi called Evil Dead 2. Why are we reviewing this right now? Well, it's a classic, and our patrons and our fans, they all love classic episodes, but a week from now, we're going to be reviewing the new movie, Evil Dead Burn, which we gave rave reviews to Evil Dead Rise. It was one of my, I can't remember both. I know it was a top 5 film for me that year.
Top 5 for me.
Yeah, so now Evil Dead Burn is coming out, new director, new people, but very anxious to see that. So yes, tonight, Patrick, we are going back in time, not as far as Army of Darkness, but we are reviewing Evil Dead 2.
That's right, Damon. Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, released in March of 1987, starring the likes of Lou Hancock as Henrietta, John Peaks as Professor Noby, Richard Daumier as Ed, Denise Bixler as Linda, Ted Raimi as Possessed Henrietta, Cassie Wesley DePavia as Bobby Joe, Dan Hicks as Jake, Sarah Barry as Annie, and starring Bruce Campbell Damon as the titular and the hero himself, Ash. Of course, written by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel, directed by Sam Raimi, as Ash Williams, the lone survivor of an earlier onslaught of flesh-possessing spirits, holes up in a cabin with a group of strangers while the demons continue their attack. Damon, Evil Dead 2 had a budget of $3.6 million with a gross worldwide of 5.9. Not exactly lighting up the box office, but it does not matter because Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn, truly one of the cult favorites of every single, except perhaps the two that host Rewind of the Living Dead. Now, Damon, before we get into this movie, I do want to say we're not going to like trash this movie or anything like that. That's not what we're saying. We're just not the biggest Evil Dead guys in particular. But I will say this: the cover for Evil Dead 2 is one of my absolute favorite VHS video store rental covers, period. When I used to, as a kid, walk around the horror section and look at all the cool covers, the cover for Evil Dead 2, which is this sort of this skull with human eyes photoshopped in where the eye sockets should be, it just fascinated me to no end as a kid. But it was not a movie that I think I saw when I was little. Did you see it when you were really young?
I did see it one, and I saw, once again, this goes back to being a kid and just going through a video store. I saw Evil Dead 2 without ever having seen Evil Dead because I was like, oh, because I can't remember there was another horror movie. Maybe it was like Saturday the 14th or some other movie that sounded like it was a sequel, but I think the video store clerk was like, it's not actually a sequel. And so maybe in my head, I just was like, I don't need to see the first one. So I did see this as a kid, but I didn't have like, I didn't say like, I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm just saying I don't have great memories of it, but I do remember.
Yeah.
And that covers why I rented it.
Yeah, the cover is just fucking iconic, man. Like there's quite a few out there. I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as being another one that I was just obsessed with. I was like, whatever this is, I have to see it. And eventually I did see Evil Dead 2, probably like my early teens, I'm guessing. Like I saw it pretty young. And it was just, it was goofy and slapsticky, and reviewing it for this podcast in anticipation of Evil Dead Burn, it's no different. It's still a goofy, silly, slapsticky horror film.
I've said on the show before, and I've kind of set myself up for disaster. By the way, we are full spoilers tonight. This movie's almost 40 years old, just so everyone knows.
Yes.
I'm setting myself up to get killed by saying this, but go back and listen to our podcast probably since day one. I've always said that I enjoy a good horror comedy, but I never really enjoy the goofy horror that's meant to be funny. It just has never really worked for me. And I will say, doing some research for this movie last night, originally Sam Raimi and I was Scott Spiegel had like it was a more serious tone. I can't remember who came in and did some script work, or somebody from the studio did work. And they're like, this needs more slapsticky comedy. And so, like, it was actually, like, in the shooting, in the production, where they're like, we got to add more goofy shit, basically, is what they're like. And that kind of is what turned. Now, to be fair, I would argue that the goofy, kind of slapsticky, goofy shit is what kind of defined Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Because I think if they were just straight up, no tongue in cheek humor, none of that, and you were just watching a straight up horror film. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been successful. I'm saying I don't know that it would have built the franchise that it's built now. Because when they got to Army of Darkness, they leaned all the way in. Like they just leaned all the way
Yeah.
into the goofy, campy stuff. But it's just not really for me. Like I love a good horror comedy. Like I said, I just watched. I mean, I've seen Zombieland a million times. I just was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, The Rewatchables, and they were reviewing its podcast like a couple years old now. This is the end. The
Oh yeah.
Maku, the one, Seth Rogen and Jay Baruchel and all those guys, absolutely hilarious. And we need to review that on the podcast. I need like an entire hour to talk about Danny McBride in that movie. But it's meant to be funny. Like it's a horror
Yeah.
comedy that's meant to be hilarious. When you get into the realm of like, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, where it's like they're trying to play it serious, but it's incredibly goofy. I've never really gotten into that. And I'm not insulting Evil Dead, by the way. It's just never really been my bag.
Is it see? Because I don't think Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is trying to be serious though, and like I know you don't like Trauma either, and they're definitely not trying to be serious. But I think are you? Is it more for you a situation where you're just like, I don't like poor quality horror.
I
Is it
mean,
more that than anything else? Because it's very homegrown. Even Evil Dead 2, even though it's a big upgrade, basically they got a budget to remake Evil Dead with just better effects and stuff like that. But even Evil Dead 2 is still very kind of low budget feeling.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, maybe that's part of it. And like I said, I understand. Like I can grade films on day and age. You know what I mean? Like when I watch a movie from 1984, I know the effects are probably not going to be as good as they are, at least in some films, as 2026. But I don't know. It's just I don't. It was the goofiness of it all. Like there's just so much goofiness in Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 that I'm like, I get it. It just doesn't really. I don't. There's no point in this movie where I was really laughing. Like, and I know a
Sure.
lot of people watch this, and like a lot of people watch this movie and almost view it as a comedy in a way. I'm not saying that's how Sam Raimi intended it to be, but it's like
I
I
think
know that
he
a lot of
did.
people. I think a lot of people watch this movie like, oh, it's gruesome and it's hilarious, and I'm like, goofy, yeah, and gruesome at moments, sure, but hilarious. I don't really get that. And like I said, maybe it's just not my style or my brand of humor. That's fine. I understand. Not everyone's
Right.
gonna like the same things I like, but yeah, I just remember like when I started revisiting horror films in the '90s and 2000s when I kind of got back into horror. I remember rewatching Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. I think it went on like I think there was like a movie marathon in Cincinnati at the time. They were doing like a midnight show or something, and I watched both back to back, and I was like, yeah, all right, just not for me, just not my thing.
Um, I actually remember going to. Are you're familiar with the term midnight movie?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So if, for anyone that doesn't know, midnight movies is it's a thing that's been going on since I think about the 1970s, where they basically play schlocky, kind of low budget, weird, goofy movies. They don't necessarily need to be horror or comedy or anything. It's just kind of over the top, ridiculous movies that are basically cult favorites, and they play them. And one of the most famous midnight movies of all time is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. People go to that. They dress up, they sing along. It's a party. I've been to one midnight screening of The Room by Tommy Wiseau. Schwink and I went to that. People literally brought bags of plastic forks and they would throw them at the screen. It's like an experience. I went to a midnight showing of Evil Dead 2. I went with BT Meza, director of Affection, because Evil Dead 2 is one of his most favorite films of all time. And if you've seen Affection, it's nothing like Evil Dead 2. It really isn't. They could be polar opposites. BT Meza is a very slick, very polished filmmaker, and there's a lot of rough around the edges goofiness to Evil Dead 2, but he loved the kind of the ingenuity and the filmmaking craft of that movie, and it always inspired him. So he holds it a really special place. So it's me, BT Meza, and this composer, and it's kind of a serious, kind of an art goony guy. Um, and we're sitting there, and we know what we're in for. Me and BT know what we're up to. The composer had no idea what a midnight movie was. People are screaming out lines. They're talking back to Ash or to one of the Deadites or stuff like that. And the composer, like midway through the movie, stands up and goes, he just shouts into the crowd, "Thanks for ruining this for me, assholes." And he stomps out and never came back. And I was like, oh, he doesn't know what we're doing here. These movies are so bad they're good for a lot of people. You know, like a lot of people love so bad they're good movies. Um, and I know I'm the art goon of the group, but I do love really schlocky movies. I'd love to pretend like I don't watch them. I do. I usually like open up Screambox and they have the dopiest low budget horror movies, and I tend to watch them while I'm like folding my clothes or some shit. Like one was like Babezilla, and it was just so stupid. I mean, just bad. They're bad movies. They're not just like schlocky or silly. They're like downright bad. Or like Tanny and the T-Rex, starring Denise Richards and Paul Walker. Like dumb, the dumbest movies. I do love watching those. I would never in my right mind call them good. I would never in my right mind hand it to somebody and go, you have to watch this. It just tickles me the right way at the right time. Some people would take offense to the idea that I don't love Evil Dead 2. They'd be like, why are you crazy? It's so important. Even BT'd be like, what do you mean you don't love Evil Dead 2? It's like, it's such a big deal. It's like, it's okay. It's more fun if watch it at a midnight showing, a midnight movie with a bunch of weirdos. That's what I like. But I do like stuff like, I watch all of John Waters' movies. I love John Waters. I love Troma, the early Troma. I don't like anything probably past the 90s, but I like goofy shit. But like, even despite all that, like Evil Dead 2 does not do for me what it seems to do for so many people.
I can love a good bad horror movie. Like I got you seen my giant collection back there. I could probably pull out 10 in a row of movies and you'd be like, why do you own that, or why do you want to see that again? Like I was actually just rewatching recently, I think it's on Netflix right now, the remake of House on Haunted Hill.
Oh
The
God.
one that was made, here with Famke Janssen and
Yeah.
Chris Kattan. I love that movie. Love it. Unabashedly love it. And I know it's not good. I know it's not a great movie. And most people say, oh my God, the Vincent Price original is so much better. You're probably right. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just saying that it came out in like 1999, early 2000s, and that was in my like rebirth of horror. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I was just like, something about it. I can't sit there and tell you why I love it. It's not
Right.
a great movie, but I just love it. And to your point about the Midnight Movie, I remember, so I was like maybe like a sophomore in college, I think I was. And everyone's like, we got to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a midnight showing on Halloween. Now, even back then, I was a big Halloween guy. I was like, well, let's go. I'd never seen it. Had a blast. Had an absolute
Yeah.
blast. Didn't know what the fuck was going on, but I had a blast. People singing. There was people dressed up like Frankenfooter. I had a blast. A couple years later, I can't remember if I was dating someone or I was at a house with someone like, let's watch Rocky Horror. This girl or these girls had never seen, these guys never seen, whoever, a group of people had never seen it. I was like, all right, yeah. Put it on. Didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying like, wow, this just doesn't hit the way it did in the midnight show. In the midnight movie, people singing and dressed up and screaming and singing along. I was like, this is a blast. I had a great time and really enjoyed the movie. Saw it without that, and I was like, oh, well, okay, it's all right, I guess. So I think like there is probably a world where I see Evil Dead 2 in a packed theater where the people losing their minds, and when Bruce Campbell starts up that chainsaw and goes groovy and everyone loses their shit.
Oh yeah.
I
It's
probably
great.
this is fun, but I've never experienced that. And like I said, I know I saw this as a kid and very young, very very young. Don't have a great memory. I remember the cover more than I remember the actual movie, the cover of the VHS. And I saw it again in like the 90s, and again I was like, I could give or take, whatever. And then I watched it sometime around Evil Dead Rise because it's been years since I saw it, and I actually got a Blu-ray with Evil Dead 1 and 2, and so I watched them back to back again. Well, I did that midnight show, but that was just regular movies, by the way. That was not like with a crowd or anything. That was just like back to back. And I watched it back to back as a Blu-ray. And I was like, I understand the appeal if you're into that kind of movie, the schlocky, kind of over the top, goofy kind of humor that's not totally meant to be humor, or I guess they eventually do kind of lean into that. But it's just like, yeah, it's just not my bag, man. It's just not what I enjoy, and I can't give you a better explanation, and it just doesn't appeal to me. And I'll say, part of it, yes, part of it probably does come down to story. Like, it's not the most in-depth story you're ever going to witness. It's a guy shows up to a cabin with him and his girlfriend. He makes the really boneheaded mistake of playing a tape recorder that reads pages from the Necronomicon that unleashes the Deadites. His girlfriend gets killed and or gets possessed, and then it's Ash by himself battling off the Deadites for like a half hour, and then this weird other group shows up with the daughter of the guy who translated the Necronomicon, and now we have more people that we can slaughter. 4 more people just randomly show up at the cabin. The action scenes, the gore, the battles, I get all that, but the story is not really a story. It's just we showed up and the Necronomicon unleashed demons.
Before everyone tunes out, because now they're absolutely sick of us talking shit about Evil Dead 2. Um, what I can really, really, really appreciate about this movie is how quickly it gets into how it works. Pretend, you had no idea what movie you were getting into when you bought Evil Dead 2 or rented Evil Dead 2 at the video store, and you sit down at home and you plunk it down. It's so easy to understand what's going on. These two folks, they get into this cabin. They're not supposed to be there. I mean, moments in, he goes into the other room and starts playing. Oh, like what's on this player? And he starts playing it, and it's reciting the incantation, and the book starts flipping around, and you're like, oh, something's definitely wrong here. And then, bam. The girlfriend is completely possessed and absolutely insane, and he beheads her like almost instantly without a hesitation. There's no like denial or anything. He's like, "Whoa, you're possessed. Off with your head." And then he's burying her, and then he's like infected with the whatever this is, the deadite, and it shows very quickly that it doesn't like the sun. It's starting to affect him, and he's turning into this demon. But when the sun hits, oh, it freaks out and it kind of retreats. That's all done within 8 minutes. I timed it. I was like, I know how this movie works inside 8 minutes. And it was like fun at the same time. Like I do. I was a big Pee Wee Herman guy growing up. Like I grew up on Pee Wee and I loved him. So I loved Pee Wee's Playhouse and all that. Like that first 8 minutes sort of plays like Pee Wee's Playhouse if you really look at it. I mean, it's so ridiculous and over top. It's like if Pee Wee made a horror movie and showed it to everybody at Pee Wee's Playhouse on his little wacky projector, that's what the movie would be. He's like, oh, look at my short film. And you're like, oh that's totally a Pee Wee short film. And
Unfortunately,
then it's
unfortunately, Evil Dead 2 did not have the benefit of Lawrence Fishburne as Cowboy Curtis. Just throwing it out there. Real quick.
unfortunately, yes. Yeah, the great Lawrence Fishburne. But yeah, it's off to the races. I mean, within 8 minutes of this movie, you're just in and you understand what's going on. And then, of course, he spends a great majority of that first part of the movie just fighting off the house, which is funny and slapsticky in its own right. I mean, was it making me laugh? No, but it's being played for laughs. And I think that works for most people. And they threw everything they could at you.
And I like that part, like I do, and I get that, and the frenetic pace, and listen, I adore Bruce Campbell. Like I think if you don't adore Bruce Campbell, there's something wrong with you. But I adore Bruce Campbell, so watching him kind of go around and get to be goofy and like having like the battle with the mirror and the hand and all the other crazy shit that happens, like I get it, and for that kind of frenetic pace, it is kind of fun. There is a moment, kind of deep into that where I'm kind of like, is it really going to be like, I remember like, I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but there was a moment where I'm like, they really need to get more people in here because this is going to get a little tedious, but just basically battling himself for 45 minutes. And they do. And to their credit, like the reason those people show up makes sense. The first 2 people anyways, they're getting off a plane and they found the lost pages of the Necronomicon and she's going to find her father. And so they're going out to the cabin and they run into these 2 weird hill jacks out in the middle of nowhere and they're like, I can get you there this other trail. And so I understand like everything that goes on there. I guess for me, I get like what you're saying is absolutely correct. It just felt to me a little tedious because it kind of got repetitive because then it's like, oh, you're into he's battling the Deadite, then the Deadite's inside him, and then the Deadite's outside of him, then it's trying to get in the house, he's trying to get out of the house. Like it's just it felt a little repetitive to me. But like I said, I get it. Like I get the appeal of it. It just, like I said, it's just not necessarily my favorite thing in the world. But it is fun. Like this is one of those movies. I've now seen this at least 6 times. Now that I'm counting the number in my head, this is a movie that like I feel like if I saw once or twice over the course of a lifetime, I probably could take a little bit more enjoyment out of it. For whatever reason, though, visiting it these last 2 times, I'm just like, yeah, I get it, but it just doesn't really work for me. I'm glad everyone else loves it, and I get the appeal. It's just not my thing. But like I said, I think much like Rocky Horror Picture Show, if I had seen Evil Dead 2 at a midnight movie, even the first time, because it's not like it's the deepest movie in the world. You really need like you need like the dialogue on the bottom so you can understand what's going on. It doesn't take a whole lot to figure out what's going on here. I think almost like Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'd be like, yeah, that's a really fun movie because I was in a crowd with that. Now, once again, like when I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show on a room with like 6 people and in a quiet room, I was like, what? I don't get the appeal of this. It wasn't nearly as much fun. So I'm blaming myself. I feel like this would have been a movie. Like I would actually went to another midnight show, Little Shop of Horrors, the one with Rick Moranis.
That's a great one.
Same experience. Saw it with the crowd, blast. Saw it without the crowd. I was like, it didn't really do it.
Oh, I like it without the crowd. That's one of the rare musicals that I was watching a lot when I was a kid.
It's all right, but like I said, like I had so much more fun with the crowd, and so like when I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, I was like, yeah, it's all right.
Damon, everything's better with a crowd. I mean, I would say most of the time, and especially movies like this.
But I'm not even talking about like when I go see a movie that I like when the hole opens up and all the Avengers come back at Endgame and everyone loses their shit. I'm talking about people are yelling like you talk about lines at the screen and throwing shit. That is fun to me in this kind of a movie, and that's why I said I think. Had this been my first experience with Evil Dead at 19 or 20, like I had with Rocky Horror Picture Show, I'd probably be coming into this podcast with a slightly different attitude. I'm not lying.
No, that's very true. It's kind of the first imprint. Like, what did it feel like the first time you saw it? Kind of can kind of help the experience. But look, this movie ultimately, I think it's swift. It's under an hour and a half. I think it's 1 hour and 24 minutes. So it's a brisk movie. Is it the most well acted? No, but what they replace instead of great acting is melodrama, like comedic melodrama. Everything is way over the top. It's almost like one of the original talkies or something. It's got very like over the top. Everybody's acting a little bit big and all that stuff. It kind of has like an old Hollywood feel in that respect. And when it's time to hit, like there's these, I think, crafty progressions that Sam Raimi puts in this movie. Like, yes, he's fighting the Deadites in the house all by himself, and then the kids of the professor come in, and that complicates things, and it creates a new complication with Henrietta under the floorboards. And then it's like, okay, that's a new complication. We're creating things, and we're adding more gore, we're adding more craziness. And then that third act hits, and it's just like, how big can this get? How over the top can this thing get? How much crazy shit can happen? How many big things can come through the wall? Oh, he's missing an arm. So what do we do with that? Fucking tie a chainsaw to it. And it's maximalist, bombastic, silly, crazy, and like I just admired the fact that they went for it. Like I was appreciating it this time really on that filmmaking level where I was just like, they really don't even care what you think about the movie. They're just going for it at every moment. They're just going, how do we ratchet this thing up higher and higher and higher each time?
I'll tell you what I actually do really love about this movie. And I figured this out watching this the last time because I kind of watched it in two halves. I was watching it, got interrupted, had to finish a little bit later. And as I said, I've seen this several times. The moment when Ash and the girl go to the shed and he makes the chainsaw arm and they pop down the bolts and they pop down the chainsaw and he lops off the shotgun and straps it on, does the chain on his straps it on his shirt so he can start the chainsaw. Puts the double barrel shotgun behind his back, the sawed off shotgun, and of course Bruce Campbell utters that very famous line, "Groovy." From that moment on, I had fun because it's just nonstop insanity at that point. There's no more like character introductions. There's no more I'm going to be clear. I said this earlier. I love Bruce Campbell, and I don't mind the opening parts with Bruce just basically battling himself as Ash. Like I don't mind that at all. But like I said, to me, it felt a little tedious because to me, it kind of dragged on a little bit too long, even though the movie's only an hour and 24 minutes. But like any horror movie, you got to up the body count, which is purely why they brought in the two characters and then the two random Hilljack characters because they just need more people to kill. But that frantic pace from him getting the chainsaw bolted on his arm to literally getting time transported back to the 1300s, which we'll talk about when we get to the ending. That's all fun. The tree jumping in the house and grabbing her, and her getting shot, and trying to read the pages. That all felt like not a classic horror movie, but like a good constructed ending to a horror film, and then setting it up perfectly for the eventual trilogy. That I all loved. Like, for whatever reason, that last like 15 minutes hits for me. And I think it's because you're in that final battle, you're in that end game. And that appealed to me. And like I said, the chainsaw arm, yeah, it's goofy, but I loved it. I was like, this felt like something out of a comic book or something out of an 80s cartoon.
Yeah.
I mean, the great Rocky Four montage where they play the music and you see Rocky trolling through the hills, and there's Ivan Drago, getting all the steroids and pumping himself up. It was like a 2-minute scene or minute and a half scene where he straps on the chainsaw and they're just getting ready. But it kind of felt like that, like we're getting ready for battle. And then that last like 10, 15 minutes is just so frantic, and then getting to the conclusion. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I just wish it had been like that condensed part really made a lot of sense to me, but there's a lot of the parts that felt like they could have been left out or maybe condensed or shortened. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this movie, even an hour and 24 minutes, you give me an hour version or maybe like a 58-minute version of Evil Dead 2, probably plays better for me. I mean, I might be on an island when I say that, but that felt like there's a little bit of extra fat in this movie, but when I get to that frantic last 15 minutes, I can totally see the appeal of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't disagree. I would disagree, I would say, because I think what this movie needs is those slashing moments, like you're talking about. Like, it's the Hill Jacks and it's the kids, getting them all taken out, showing that the house sort of behaves like, I almost want to say like The Thing. Like, before you know it, you're possessed by the Deadites. Like, I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it this time around. I was like, oh yeah, like you don't even realize you're in there, and then before you know it, you turn around and you're a Deadite. It's like, whoa, they're like, there it is. So I can appreciate what that did, and it did to me. That didn't drag the movie down. I don't feel quite the same way as you do. I think I more enjoy it for how crafty it is. And you talk about that last 15 minutes where it's like, he opens the door and a giant head comes in. It's like, that's funny and fun. Like, it's goofy and silly. And I like that. It's not something like I want to watch. Like, I think that's the difference. And I can't tell you why I'd go and sit and just watch an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse, but I wouldn't purposely put on Evil Dead 2. I think it's because maybe it's in smaller chunks and it's broken up with different things and stuff like that. Like, it's just kind of one long thing. And I think that's why it's like, oh, I can't wait to put this on again because it's this one long thing. Weirdly, talk about Evil Dead movies. 2013's Evil Dead is one of those movies that I am just happy to put on, even though it kind of moves like this. I think the difference for that movie is it has a very clearly defined story. It's a story about a girl trying to break addiction, and she's out there trying to get clean with her friends and family, and things are going real wrong, and it's about trying to save souls from what the Deadites want, which is torture and pain and hell. Like, Fetty Alvarez's Evil Dead is honestly one of the best horror movies ever made. I mean, like, hands fucking down, it's one of the best horror movies, period. But I think it has a lot to do with embracing what made Evil Dead so interesting to people, which is like, oh, this house can just possess you, and the woods around it are covered in deadite, whatever curse. But at the heart of it, you want to see somebody live in a very dramatic way. With Bruce, and for a lot of people, and for a whole section of horror fans, a whole great section of horror fans, the character of Ash is so key because they want to have fun, right? They want their movies to be fun and silly, and Ash is that guy. Ash is their guy. He's their funny uncle who has a little quip or something like that. I call it Comic-Con humor. That's the best way I can describe it. It's stuff that really works when you're sitting in like Hall H and there's a panel and they make those goofy little jokes and everybody's laughing and I'm just sitting there going, I guess that's funny. I guess didn't really work for me. I think that's Ash for a lot of people. They're just like, no, I love like, and Bruce Campbell's a very lovable guy. I've sat in on panels with him talking before. He's just a very, um, how would I say, it? Charming, a magnetic kind of personality and stuff like that. And a lot of people just Ash is like their hero, and so that it's not, this is not, clearly not for us, Damon. Clearly, like we're struggling to go like, oh, I guess I can see why you like it. It doesn't make me need to revisit it all the time, but I can appreciate the choices that are made in this movie from, at least from a filmmaking standpoint.
I had a thought in my head I was going to say, and now I'm taking it back. I was going to go back to one of the things I've said before on the show. We talked about this with Disclosure Day. We talked about it with a couple other movies. Like, if this had come out in early 2000s, if this had come out in 1985, it would make a lot more sense, probably would have worked better. And I've always said, listen, there's nothing wrong with having that nostalgia for certain movies. Like, you saw it
Sure.
when you were a kid, you love it, and I get it. Like, even though if it's not particularly good, I can't. There was one movie we reviewed that was from the '80s that I loved that you had never seen, and you're like, I don't really get it. And I was like, I love it, but that was the difference. I saw it in like 1988 when I was a child,
Sure.
and you saw it for the first time in 2025. I can't. I'll have to look up on our archives to remember which one it was, but there was one like that. And I was like, I love it. It's an amazing movie. You're like, yeah, I don't like it. And I was like, I think part of it comes from the fact that I saw it when I was 9 years old or 8 years old or however old I was as a kid, late 80s, early 90s, that I saw it and I was like, oh, I just have such a passion, such a nostalgia for this movie. That being said, I'm not using that excuse for this one because Scott Spiegel, who co-wrote this movie, actually went on to direct a movie called Intruder, which showed on the last drive-in with Joe Bob and Darcy the Mail Girl. Shout out to them; they're amazing, and kind of mad
We love
that they're
them.
canceling them.
Yeah.
They showed Intruder one night, and I watched it through the show, and it was really fun. It's more of just like an old school slasher. It takes place at a grocery store. Grocery store's getting ready to close permanently, and all the employees are there, and people start getting knocked off. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's got Ted Raimi in it. But it's just really fun and really well done. I had a blast watching it. I'd never seen it before. It was like a 1988 or 89 horror movie. Never seen it before. I had an absolute blast. Not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's the greatest horror movie ever made or anything, but, that was an 80s movie that I saw more recently. And I was like, this was fun. Or, well, in the last 5 years. So I'm not even going to use that nostalgia factor for this thing. If I had seen Evil Dead when I was, if I remembered it from when I was a kid, or if I had that midnight viewing, I'd love it a lot more. Maybe. But the movie, like I said, the movie has just never stuck with me in the way that other horror films have, but I get the appeal. But here's the thing, and this is my opinion. I'm saying this is my opinion, not your opinion, anyone else's opinion. I think getting to Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead in 2013, which we reviewed on this show, go back and listen to it. We slathered praise on that movie. Both of us did. It felt like the next stage of evolution. And I've heard a lot of people say, even if you don't like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness gets even goofier, watch Ash versus the Evil Dead. The Star series was on for like 2 seasons and got canceled. So I have not watched it, not because I don't want to watch it, I just never got a chance to see it. But people say, oh my God, it's so good. It is funny, it is a little goofy, but it's just a much better, like, conducted story. And it's actually got a real story. It's like a 13 episode season. They can't just have
Right.
like goofy shit happen for episode after episode. Everyone's like, oh, it's so good. It's such a good series. So bummed it got canceled. And I say that about another great Bruce Campbell series, Hysteria. Fuck you, Peacock, by the way.
Yeah. God damn it. Hysteria rules.
Hysteria was awesome. But I think that's really what, like, we saw the next evolution of what Evil Dead could be. And Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead is, like you said, very similar story, like setup, very similar setup.
Setup, yeah.
The story and execution, in my opinion, are just much better, and it's just brutal. And listen, you're getting what at that point? What is it? You got me do the math here. Was that 26 years difference in the movies, whatever it is? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
26 years later of effects and digital effects being instituted and blah blah blah. Evil Dead, the 2013 Evil Dead is great, and I'm not even gonna sit here and say, oh, it's better. It's this. I think that is like the next evolution. Evil Dead Rise, brutal. Just brutal, and like everything I could, like, that was just a tour de force. Outside of them trying to tell me that Detroit was Los Angeles or whatever they were filming at, like, this is LA.
It was
It's
like
not LA.
Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah, we're like, this does not look like LA. But outside of that, like, the acting was great, the story was great. It was a top 5 horror film for both of us. But to me, that's the next evolution of Evil Dead. Because I don't know if you could make this same Evil Dead movie again in 2026 and it would work. I don't know that it would. And I think even Sam Raimi recognized that when he's like, here as a Sebastian Vanachuk, I think that's the director's
Yeah.
name, like who's doing this one. You did an incredible movie with, I think it was Infected. Was that the name of the movie?
Infested.
Infested, thank you. The French
Yeah.
movie. Incredible movie. We reviewed it on here. Go check it out if you haven't. It's a really, really good movie. He's like, here's the reins. Go do your thing. I'm gonna make Send Help, which was a blast. We had a blast making that. We had a blast reviewing that with Sam Raimi. You take the reins of Evil Dead. I'm going to produce. I'm going to sit on the sidelines and produce. Bruce Campbell's going to sit on the sidelines and produce. We're handing you up to the next generation of Evil Dead filmmakers. That's what this feels like to me. It feels like the generation before. And it just, when I watch Evil Dead 2013, when I watch Evil Dead Rise, and I'm legit excited for Evil Dead Burn. I know nothing about it, by the way. I saw one trailer and I never saw it again. It was just a teaser. I'm like, God, I hate I even saw that teaser. I'm excited, though. Just the name alone has me excited. I just think this is like two generations of Evil Dead. The original Evil Dead from the 1980s, which people hold so deep in their hearts, and I get it, but just never really appealed to me. And this new generation, by the way, I have seen hardcore Evil Dead fans say, oh, this isn't Evil Dead. It doesn't feel like Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like Fetties. They don't like Evil Dead Rise. They don't like the edgy version of
this
Evil
is
Dead.
I'm the opposite. I like the edgy and brutal and I, like I said, I can enjoy a good horror comedy, but for whatever reason, man, to me, Evil Dead, Necronomicon, Deadites, all that just works better as like an actual serious horror film. That's just me.
That's me too. You know what's funny though? But of the original trilogy, I do like Army of the Darkness or Army of Darkness best because I think to me it's just a flat out comedy. Like they're not even trying to do anything other than just be like, what if this is just a goofy medieval movie that has demons in it? Like that's ultimately what it is. And it works. It works for what it is, but it really, to me, that's just a comedy that has horror and gore in it, but it's not, it didn't even feel like a horror movie. So maybe it's just like that worked better for me. I don't know. I really don't know. But once we got into the dark side of Evil Dead, I was like, ooh, now this franchise speaks to me on another level. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me, Damon. What can I tell you? I grew up on ogrish.com and rotten.com and saw a lot of fucked up shit that I probably shouldn't have seen. And yeah, maybe it tinged my preferences a little bit. These have their place. I'm not yucking anybody's yum. You love Evil Dead, you love Evil Dead 2, you love Army of Darkness and the campiness of those movies, and that's your version of Evil Dead. That's fine. Damon and I need the soul crushing, nasty, dreadful, everybody dies, families get ripped apart, blood, gallons and gallons and thousands of gallons of blood. That's kind of what me and Damon are after. And I think those movies too, I think they do pay a lot of great homage to the originals in their own way. In fact, I saw a poster for Evil Dead Burn that looks a hell of a lot like Evil Dead 2's VHS cover. It's got a little bit of it's got a touch of it because it's got the eyeballs in the skull, and there's some other stuff like a house and stuff. I didn't look to it too deeply. I still know nothing about Evil Dead Burn while everybody else is talking about the trailers. I go, I don't even know what it's about yet. I don't give a shit. I'm going. That's all I know. I like where this franchise is headed.
Army of Darkness, funny you mentioned that. Like, I always thought Army of Darkness was like Monty Python as a horror movie.
Oh, it's a great way to describe that.
Like, just lean right into it. Lean all the way into it. Because I love Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That's one of my favorites. I crack up at that movie. To this day, it's still funny as hell to me. Army of Darkness felt like they're just like, screw it. We're not going to play anything serious. We're just going to have a goofy ass. And like I said, that to me, that made sense for whatever reason in my head. And maybe I'm wrong, and that's fine that I'm wrong. In my head, watching Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, it always felt like there were moments where they're still trying a little bit to be serious or trying to make it like a little more dramatic. By Army of Darkness, they're just like, fuck it. We're going to go we're leaning all the way in. We're going full camp. We're going full cuckoo. Even the end scene, which we'll talk about the ending in a second, the ending of Evil Dead 2 when he lands in the medieval times and you're just like, just go for it, man. Just have fun. And that's what Army of Darkness, I'm not a huge, like, I would say I probably like Army of Darkness better because it just fully leans into the goofiness. But even then, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've seen it a couple times. Don't know that it's one I'm rushing to re-see again. But I've seen Evil Dead Rise like 5 times. Like I watched it in the theater, and I know I watched it a couple more times, and I probably watched it a couple more times on cable. I can't remember, but I know I've seen it several times, and I've seen Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead multiple times. And assuming Evil Dead Burn pays off the way I hope it will, I'll probably see that multiple times. It's just like anything else, man. Like some people like Snickers, some people like Kit Kats. It's okay that you don't like the same things, but give me the brutal, bloody,
Yes.
gruesome, because like you can make fun of pretty much everything. I was talking about This Is the End earlier. Let me spoil that movie. I mean, there's a scene where Jonah Hill gets ass fucked by a demon. Now that may sound like what? It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious in that movie. So I understand the idea that you can make very serious things funny. I get it. I totally understand you can. But for me, the serious, the gnarly version of Evil Dead just works so much better because there ain't a whole lot funny about 2013's Evil Dead, and there is probably even less. Well, there's probably a little bit funnier, I guess, about Evil Dead Rise, and even less about 2013's Evil Dead. I don't know any moment where I was like, "Oh man, what a great laughable scene." No, there's nothing really funny about it. It just gets more brutal and more gruesome as the movie goes on. That's just kind of what I lean into.
You and me both, Damon. I'm gonna let the folks know. You may have noticed that Rewind of the Living Dead is now running ads. That's just our service provider is now putting ads on our show because thankfully a lot of people listen and they're like, hey, you know what? So many people listen. We're gonna throw ads on your show. If you don't want to hear those ads and you want an ad-free experience, you go to patreon.com/rewind of the living dead for an ad-free version of this show. It's only $5 a month, but that's not the only thing you're paying for, Damon. No, 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 no. You get exclusive podcasts. We have the Film Core podcast, and coming in pretty soon, starting in August, I believe, we're going to start doing exclusive horror podcasts because that's what our patrons want, because we listen to our patrons. They were like, hey, it's nice to have those non-horror movies, but really we'd just rather hear about horror movies. So that you said, you know what, you're paying, you got it. So we're going to start doing an exclusive horror podcast for our paying patrons. But that's not all either, Damon. For $5 a month, you also get our TV breakdowns. Alien Earth, Welcome to Derry, Camp Crystal Lake is coming in the fall. We'll be talking about that on the Patreon. If you want to hear about it, you go there for it. The plethora, Damon, okay, what else do we got there? Lost episodes. The lost episodes. When I tell you Bloodbeat is one of my favorite episodes that we've ever recorded, and I sound like a chipmunk on it for some reason because we're recording back on that old equipment and it's got my voice all high pitched up. There's a lot over there for just $5. And one of our patrons was even like, man, you guys do a lot for just $5 a month. There's other Patreons. They charge a lot more tiers for all this stuff. We're giving you all this at $5 a month, minus those ads that you were just like, God, I want to skip over this shit. And I just want to hear the podcast. Go there. Damon drops it the night we record this is the night Damon drops it on our Patreon for all of our patrons to have. The rest of the world gets it roughly a week later. Patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. Help you boys out for just $5 a month.
And one little bonus, it's coming soon. I'm working on it right now. I will soon be adding an RSS feed to our Patreon so you can actually get the podcast on your regular podcast service. Had a couple people ask about that. I had never set it up on Patreon before, but I've been looking into it. I'm going to get it set up. So basically, you'll be with an exclusive link, of course, you'll be able to go into like your normal podcast listening services, Apple, Spotify, and actually listen through the Patreon through our exclusive feed. You can only get it through Patreon, but obviously you'll now be able to listen to it on your normal podcast listening services without having to actually go on patreon.com. So that's coming soon. I'm working on it right now. Hopefully get it done within the next couple of weeks, and that will be on there as well. So when you get the new episodes, like we're recording that with Evil Dead 2, you'll get it on that feed, boom, right away as well. So you won't even have to log on to Patreon to get it. So that's coming soon. Stay tuned, probably the next couple of weeks. I know I've had some people ask about it, so I am working on that currently. So be aware, the RSS feed is coming soon to our Patreon. So it's just another way you could be a member. And if you just want to listen to podcasts, great. You just get it through your regular podcast service, but you still pay the $5 a month, but you don't actually have to go directly to Patreon to listen to the shows. So stay tuned for that as well. Patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. Should we talk about the ending, Patrick? Let's talk about the ending of this movie real quick.
Let's talk about the ending, Damon.
So obviously at this point we're down several people. Bobby Joe has gone out in the woods and gotten eaten, and
the saga of Bobby Joe.
I mean, that guy, man, he was Bobby Joe, Bobby
Yeah.
Joe. They all get wiped out. It's basically down to just Ash and what is the girl's name? I forget her name. Uh,
Oh man.
the,
Why?
the daughter's name.
Not
Uh,
Linda. Who's the other one? Where is she?
not Ash's girlfriend.
Where the
What is
heck is
she?
she? Oh, I have this. I have
Annie.
a
Annie.
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 Jesus
Annie.
Christ.
Yeah, Annie.
This whole
It's
cheat
just
sheet. She's nowhere on it.
basically just down to Ash and Annie. And, Annie, at one point almost turns on Ash and they end up battling. And then she gets the pages of the Necronomicon to read them to reverse the spell. And she gets stabbed in the back by the giant stick thing, I don't know, like a staff or
It was like a
whatever.
knife, like some sort of weird
Yeah.
Necronomicon knife.
Yeah. And so she gets stabbed. She's dying and Ash is trying to survive on his own. But eventually, Annie gets the pages back right before her own death, and she's able to finish the incantation, which opens the portal to hell or the portal to another dimension where it's going to suck out the Deadites and all the evil and send them back through time and rid them from our world. And I will say the portal looked very Monster Squad. I appreciated that about that
Yes.
moment. I was like, hey, it's just like how you got rid of Dracula and everybody. Portal opens up, everything's going that way, but then suddenly Bruce Campbell's Ash gets lured away. He can't break hold, he can't save himself, and he gets sucked through the portal of time. And he drops him and his Oldsmobile drop into the middle of the 1300s, and he wakes up with his shotgun, and all these knights surround him, and he ends up there's like a pterodactyl deadite thing coming for him, and he ends up shooting it with the double barrel shotgun, kills it, and all the knights celebrate, and they're like, Deadites, he killed it, and they'll bow down to him like he's a god, and that obviously ends the movie with Ash as the hero, but stuck in the 1300s where he just killed a deadite with what we have to assume is one of his final shotgun shells, and that is how Evil Dead 2 ends.
Yeah, and it's interesting because earlier in the movie you see an image in the Necronomicon of a hero from the sky who was supposed to save them from the Deadites during the medieval times. So there's some weird little time loop thing going on. And by the way, all these movies in the Evil Dead franchise are canon. They all work together. People think Evil Dead 2013 Evil Dead is a remake. It's not a remake. Ash is somewhere in the world while that's going on. Like all of this stuff exists together. So there is a time loop element to the Evil Dead, and it's very interesting to see if that will come back around in one of these next two movies because we got two movies coming.
Well, I know they said that in Evil Dead Rise, the voice on the tape was Bruce Campbell. Now, they never said specifically it was Ash, but they said when you hear those voice tapes, it
Yeah.
ends up unleashing the Deadites in the newer movie. That's Ash's voice or Bruce Campbell's voice. So yeah, I'll be curious, but yeah, I mean, like I said, the ending I enjoyed it. Like like I said, they lean fully into the goofiness of it all. But like and by the way, I didn't have a lot of great things to say about the story crafting in this movie because there wasn't a lot of story to craft. But they do pay off that earlier image where they said this happened back in the 1300s and there was a hero that rose to defeat the evil or whatever. And it looked very similar to Bruce Campbell. And then, sure enough, he gets sucked back in time and the knights all bow down to him. And that obviously sets up the future for Army of Darkness. So I do like that paid off with that ending with like him going back in time. And I remember, like like I said, I don't remember watching this as a kid, but I remember watching it years later, like as a teenager or maybe in college, and I was like, this is so incredibly dumb, but I kind of enjoyed it. They're just like, go for it. He's back in time now. Why?
Yeah.
Well, who the fuck cares? He's back in time now.
Yeah, funny and silly, and yeah, I'd like to revisit Army of Darkness one day. Maybe we will when the other Evil Dead movie comes out in 27, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So we got some time. But yeah, that is the ending of Evil Dead 2. And yeah, like I said, not insulting the movie, certainly not insulting anyone that loves it, and because I know, like, this is one of those, like, that's why I said we had to be careful with our words, because this is one of those movies where you're like, you feel like you stepped on someone's throat when you're like, I don't really like
Oh,
Evil Dead 2,
people
and they're
get
like,
so upset.
why? They're like, why did you insult my mother? Like, what? What did I do?
Damon, is there a horror movie that if someone was like, yeah, I don't think that movie's good at all, or I don't enjoy that movie the way everybody else does, that you would be like, I think you're genuinely crazy?
I mean,
I
it
feel
like,
like it's The Thing.
that would probably, like, I mean, I know it's brutal, and I know people, oh, it's not a horror movie. It's a horror movie. I mean, Seven would be one where, like, how can you not enjoy this movie? Like, how can you not say
I've
this is
never
a
met a
good movie?
person who didn't think that was an incredible movie.
Yeah.
I have a much younger friend, a friend that is probably about 15 years my junior, and she just recently watched Seven, and I was like, boy, this could go horribly wrong. And she was like, fuck, that movie was amazing. She goes, that movie was
Yeah.
like, it felt like it was made like yesterday. It's a really, really good movie. I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
I think I don't like to say number one horror film of all time. I don't like to say things like that, but like, The Devil's Rejects is up near that top of whatever it is. But I can actually see why people wouldn't like that one. It is fucking brutal. It's got some
It's
really like
brutal.
hard to watch scenes, and like if someone's like, it's just I get it. Like that I get. You know what I mean? Like that's a
Even
movie where I can.
our part-time producer, Real Dumb, hates every Rob Zombie movie there is. He's only slightly warmed up to Halloween 2 recently, but even then he's like, yeah, I hate it slightly less. But he says, I wish Rob Zombie never made The Devil's Rejects because he has one good fucking movie. He can't even deny it. He goes, it's I just hate that he has one great movie in his coffers by chance.
But even I can say like I get it if you don't like that movie. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah,
Like
it's hard
it's
to
a
watch for some
it can,
people.
it can be an absolute hard to watch. So like like some people like if I said aliens, they're like I don't really like sci-fi. I okay, like I'm not saying I agree, but I all right. Some people are just anti sci-fi. I get it, like whatever. But yeah, I think Seven would be one where like how could you not like that? Like what like that would be the one where you're not going to get a side eye. You're going to get like the shrug and the roll of the eyes because I'd be like, what are you watching? Like how you did? And I think The Thing is a good example of that too.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be like, Are you sure you saw the thing or were you watching something else? Because that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I was like, what are we watching the same thing? Are you sure you didn't watch like something else? And yeah. So I get it. Like I said, I get it. I get the appeal, and I know people are very, very passionate about these movies, and I understand. Like I said, I'm a Bruce Campbell diehard. I love Bruce Campbell. I've been in similar situations. You've seen him speak, been in the same room as him. People love him, and I get it, man. He's very charismatic, very funny dude. Like I said, he was incredible in Hysteria. Like we loved that show. He was awesome in Hysteria.
Yeah, very
Still
different
pisses
role
me
for
off.
him.
Yeah,
Really good role for
yeah,
him.
yeah. We wish we had a season two. Peacock, just saying that again. But yeah,
Fuckers.
so yeah. But like I said, I just for whatever reason, Evil Dead has just never been my bag. Well, let me say that the first couple Evil Deads, Army of Darkness, lean totally into Monty Python of it all. I get it, and then the last three. That's my Evil Dead trilogy, I guess you could say. Evil Dead from Fede Alvarez and well, I can't say for Evil Dead Burn, but I'm just like, from what I hear, it's brutal. I haven't really heard a lot about it, but I assume it's not going to be slapsticky comedy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
But Patrick, with that being said, let's get into some categories. We do have quite a few to get into today. And Patrick, let's kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show. Let's talk about best performance. I mean, really, is there any other candidate for this question and answer?
I know some of you tonight have been very disappointed in our lackluster enthusiasm for this movie, but there is no question that the best performance of this movie goes to Bruce Campbell, who plays Ash. I mean, you talk about not just the over the top, bombastic, melodramatic acting of the olden days, but also incredible physical comedy, just physical acting, literally. I mean, literally he's throwing himself, he's having a fight with his own hand. These things, they take skill. I mean, just straight up, you could make that look really stupid. It won't work. Bruce sells the hell out of everything he does, and he does it at 10, which is even harder to do. It's like, yeah, I'm doing this full speed, all the way ramped up, and I still make it look good. That it's undeniable, Damon. Maybe I don't love this movie. Maybe it's not my favorite movie, but I cannot deny that Bruce Campbell is the absolute best part of it.
Bruce, I want to keep repeating myself with the show, but like when you watch Bruce Campbell in Hysteria, you see the real acting chops of Bruce Campbell. And by the way, that's not the only thing. I mean, obviously he's done other great roles as well, but like that movie, that show was like, man, Bruce Campbell can act his ass off. He's really good. Dialogue, acting,
Yeah.
excuse me, action, like everything. You just kind of drilled down to one. Now, let's be honest, Evil Dead 2 is a very physical performance because, like I said, the first 45 minutes are just him battling himself in the house. He's not exactly holding a conversation, but the physical acting in this movie takes talent. He's very, very talented at that. And there is something about him that, like, where he just knows how to kind of pull off that heroic role, like, in a weird way. Like, he has that kind of charisma to him. And there's a world where, in 1988, like, they're like, hey, man, like, we're going to make a Captain America movie. We want you to play some role in that or some hero role. Like,
Yeah.
he could have done that. But yeah, I think Bruce Campbell's incredible in this movie, and like he's the star, so it's not a surprise to say he's the best part of the movie. That's kind of a cop out because he really is the best part of the movie. But he's just so good in that physical aspect. Like the thing that you just when you watch this movie, like, and by the way, I don't know. I'm sure they probably had stunt doubles somewhere along the lines, but like when you're willing to just kind of beat the hell out of yourself in a movie like this and like really show off, like, hey, like it's like watching Edward Norton throw himself into that glass table in Fight Club when he just punches himself and jumps backwards into the glass
Yeah.
table. You feel like that's Bruce Campbell. He's like, oh, I don't need a stunt double. I'll just throw myself to the glass table or throw myself through the door or throw myself down a flight of stairs or whatever. He just has an uncanny ability to pull it off. And also, I do want to send my absolute heart out to Bruce Campbell. I know he's battling some illness right now, and I just want to say, Bruce, if you ever listen to this, you probably won't, but if you do, we love you. We love your performances, man, and we can't wait to see you back on the Comic-Con or the tour trail, or the movie sets, whatever you want to do with your life, man. Get better. We want plenty more years with Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, he's a fighter, and we know he's out there giving it his all. We got your back, Bruce. We love you.
Absolutely. Next category, Patrick, let's talk about MVP. So when it comes to the MVP for Evil Dead 2, who gets your MVP?
My MVP goes to the effects department. I did not look up their names, but I can tell you this. Everybody worked super hard on this movie. It was a lower budget movie, and you could see that. So across the board, everybody's working double time. But nobody was working harder, I guarantee you, than the people who were making the effects for this movie. They had to do it on a budget that probably was not conducive to what they needed, and they delivered. There's gallons and gallons of goofy, foamy red blood and prosthetics and giant prosthetics too, like big trees and all that stuff. There's also miniatures. There's stop motion in here. They ran the gamut of special effects in this movie, and this is in a time when you were only doing practical effects, maybe doing a little bit of compositing. They're doing stop motion, claymation, practical effects, blood work, blood gags, you name it. This effects team worked their asses off to get all that stuff on screen.
It's really remarkable. And like I said, the one thing I will say, even though, like I said, it gets very campy and very goofy, I mean, for 1987, they did a hell of a lot of work with effects in this movie, like practical effects. Like, you're just like, whoa, like this was all done in 1987.
Yeah, it was like 4 of the 5 million like effects.
Yeah, and by the way, like there's movies that are made in 2025 and 2026. I'm not going to name them here, but they don't look as good as this movie.
No, dude. And
Yeah,
excuse me,
so-
3.6 million. So yeah, probably half of that went to effects alone. And even then they were like, this isn't enough for what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, because they use a little bit of everything. It's claymation, there's stop motion, there's obviously big graphics and big effects. It's pretty
Tons of
remarkable.
prosthetics.
Yeah.
Everybody had a prosthetic.
Yeah, like my favorite prosthetic in this movie, honestly, is Evil Bruce or Evil Ash
Yes.
when he gets transformed. Like that looks so good. I love that part. Like I've seen that T-shirt before where I'm like, I would buy that T-shirt just 'cause it looks so cool that Bruce Campbell is Evil Ash. I love that look. So yeah, they worked their asses off. They worked overtime, and they deserve all the praise for that. Patrick, for my MVP, I'm going a little, not really off the radar necessarily. I do tend to lean into like writers and directors, but I'm actually going to give my MVP to Scott Spiegel, the co-writer. And here's why. And it's not, by the way, Sam Raimi's awesome. We go back and listen to our Send Help podcast. We praise Sam Raimi. He's an incredible, he's an icon. He's awesome, like what he does. And
Yeah.
Champions. And by the way, champions horror to this day.
Yes, he
Champions
does.
horror with his company. But everyone knows Sam Raimi. He's a household name. If I said Sam Raimi to the casual audience, oh yeah, I know that guy. He did this or did that, or yeah, even, at worst, oh yeah, he directed Spider-Man. Oh yeah, okay, right. Of course, I know Sam Raimi.
Great Spider-Man too, by the way.
Spider-Man 2, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, period. But Scott Spiegel has been a kind of a working partner with him for a lot of years, worked on a lot of his films with him. And while, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say this is the greatest story ever because I don't think there's a whole lot of story to dig into. But like I said, he's kind of like the forgotten guy in all this. Everyone mentions Sam Raimi. And by the way, I don't think Sam Raimi is trying to take away credit from him. I'm just saying like he's the director, so that generally does get more attention. But he's written and partnered with Sam Raimi in a lot of movies. And like I said, if you haven't seen Intruder, which was 1989, I just looked it up, seek that one out. I know it was on Shudder at one point. I don't know if it still is. But seek that movie out. It is a really fun, enjoyable slasher from the late 80s that no one talks about. Written and directed by Scott Spiegel. I just love when you kind of like the unsung hero gets a little bit of credit. And this is a guy who's worked on a lot of films. Some good, some bad. Not gonna lie to you about that. But I appreciate that like he's been there kind of in the background lurking and being a big part of this franchise. but doesn't really seem like he's like. I'm not saying he's not getting any credit, but just doesn't feel like he gets a lot of credit.
He doesn't get nearly as much as Bruce and Sam do. Even Ted. Ted gets a lot of love too, because Ted
Yeah.
Ted worked pretty hard on this movie as well.
Yeah, Ted almost died while making this movie. What I hear, so in that prosthetic suit, apparently it was like 130 degrees in there. So
I believe it.
yeah. Next category, Patrick. Let's talk about best Deadite. There are a lot of Deadites in this movie, obviously. What was your favorite Deadite in Evil Dead 2?
Damon, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. My best Deadite went to Deadite Henrietta, played by Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, if you did not know. Yes, who almost nearly died because he was caked in prosthetics. And what I love about Henrietta is just the concept of evil possessed grandma is funny to me. It is the most Pee Wee Herman thing about the entire movie for me. It's like, what's the scariest thing? Well, what about scary ass possessed demon grandma? Like, it's funny to me. That's the thing that tickles me. It might not tickle everybody else the same way. But also, Henrietta like morphs into like crazy demons, has a crazy like snake-like head and all this shit. Like Henrietta goes crazy through this movie. She's the very you very much focus on her evolution as a Deadite. She kind of like I would say the main boss Deadite outside of like the house and the surrounding wood. Like outside of that, Henrietta is the other Deadite that really just gets in everybody's face and delivers a lot of the goods.
Henrietta is great, and I do like the kind of transformation from the first time they open that basement door to when she pops out and it's actually Ted Raimi in the suit and he's jumping on top of people. Like, that is pretty good. But I'm cheating here, Patrick. Not gonna lie. My favorite Deadite is Ash.
Yeah.
And he transforms into that character twice, by the way. So it's not just once. It's not like a little
That's
two-minute
right.
thing. Transformed later in the movie as well when they nearly kill him before he transforms back into Ash again. I just love the look of that character. And I think it also, in a weird way, informs Bruce Campbell's performance after he exorcises the Deadite from his body because he now knows what it feels like to have one of those inhabit him. And that transformation, that look of evil Ash just looks awesome. It's just great makeup, great character. And the earlier one when he's by himself, it works, like you talk about when being in the sun, but like when he's with everyone else and transforms back into that creature and they're ready to kill him, I just love the look of that. He is pretty terrifying. And I guess kind of like, because at one moment, the Henrietta character, they show her and she looks like a vision back to her granddaughter or her daughter or whatever. So you kind of see like there's a massive difference between Henrietta and like the demon Henrietta.
Yeah.
With Ash, it's like he's just like he looks like like a corpse. He looks like
Yeah.
decomposed corpse, but he still looks like Ash. And I just loved like the jaws kind of off center, his mouth's all kind of messed up, eyes sunken in, flesh is decayed. I just love the look of that character, and he just looks vile. I just love the look of that character.
I would argue the mom in Evil Dead Rise is definitely strongly influenced by the look of Evil Dead Ash or Deadite Ash, I should say.
Yeah.
There's it's kind of the same thing, corpsey, drawn in, the wide eyes. Yeah, and I love that look, by the way. I love the Evil Dead mom. Evil Dead Rise mom is great. So yeah, and then the Ash one just looks cool. He would make a great T-shirt, and who doesn't love that?
Yeah, I believe it's Alyssa Sutherland who played the mom in Evil
Alyssa
Dead.
Sutherland, shout out, because Evil Dead Rise is a hell of a fucking movie.
Yeah. Next category, Patrick, best gag. There's a lot of those in this movie, clearly. So what is your best gag in Evil Dead 2?
Gag a minute in this movie. I mean, I was running out of room. I was like, holy shit, like what where am I gonna put all this stuff? I love the mirror gag. It's the timing of it is so good. Again, I said like all over this movie is a bunch of crafty filmmaking. And they were just like, you know, Ash is like just bouncing around the room. He's moving so fast and he swings over to try and look at himself in the mirror. And they cut perfectly. They cut perfectly to him swinging over to look in the mirror, and you're seeing him looking at his reflection, and then out of nowhere, his reflection jumps out and grabs him. You're not ready for it. You act like you thought you knew it was coming, and you didn't know it was coming because it's so well timed and it's so well crafted. That's 100% practical. There's not a green screen. There's not an optical screen. Nothing. There's no AI. None of that shit. They made it happen on screen for you. It plays so damn well in this movie. In a movie full of gags I could have chosen. I love that one.
That is a very good one. Mine is probably the most obvious, I'm not going to lie, and I know it's probably the most iconic, but it's the hand. Now,
Yeah.
I always liked the hand. Don't take my hand. My hand's possessed, and is trying to go after him. But I read a story about a week ago because I knew we were doing this podcast. I knew I was going to watch it, and I've seen it. Like I said, I want to do a little research. And this was where, however it happened, they decided to bring in more of the like schlocky humor to the movie. The hand trick originated, and if this is not true, someone can tell me I'm wrong, but I read this, I think it was Sam Raimi who said this, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was Bruce Campbell. There was an 8-minute short that somebody made back in the day about, do you remember Hamburger Helper?
Hmm.
Had the hand, the glove.
Oh, yes.
Somebody made a short about Hamburger Helper hand turning murderous. And that gave them the inspiration for the Bruce Campbell hand in Evil Dead 2. And I was like, I don't know if it's true, but goddamn, I hope it is, because that's brilliant. I love that. That Hamburger Helper hand turns evil. Great idea. And now you get to watch Bruce Campbell doing the whole, like, his hands in his face. He's holding it back. He's like, not my hand. He has to chop it off. And, of course, then you get that iconic scene later on where he straps on his chainsaw and does the groovy line. So, yeah, it's the hand trick. That, like I said, of all the parts of the movie that just didn't appeal to me, the last 15 minutes and the hand thing were probably my favorite parts of this movie. Always cracks me up when he's holding his hand. It's just, like, flickering in his face. Once again, showing you the talent of Bruce Campbell. But when I heard that Hamburger Helper story, I was like, that's so stupid. It's got to be true.
I think you're right. It probably is true based on the stupidity of it. But that whole hand scene where he fights his own hand, it's probably the best scene in the movie. Honestly, there's a lot of great moments you could kind of just isolate and go, "This is great." But man, nothing like just backing the camera up, getting a good wide shot of Bruce Campbell fighting with his hand, and it really feels convincing. It's so good.
There's no way Idle Hands didn't pick that up from this, by the way,
Oh,
right? Like a great
100%.
art.
The whole movie's based on that scene.
Yeah, it's incredible. So great acting by our friend Devin Sawa, by the way.
That's
Uh,
right.
Next category, Patrick. Can we survive this horror film? Now, I don't remember what we said for Evil Dead Rise, but I'm pretty sure, I think we both said we'd probably die because you don't really
Yeah.
survive the Deadites. But in this situation, I'll say this. I'll go first on this, Patrick, and I'm not saying this because like I'm trying to cop out of the question. I really am not. I've gone camping a lot of times in my life, done it. I try to get my girlfriend to do it now. She flat out refuses. She's just not into camping. But I did go camping a lot earlier in my life. But an isolated cabin, years after you went there before and your friends got murdered and slaughtered, because this is a sequel, there is no chance in hell I'm getting anywhere near this cabin. I will stay at a Holiday Inn Express before I go anywhere near this fucking cabin. So I know it's a cop-out answer, but I'm just answering honestly for me. You're like, hey, we're going to go to this isolated cabin where 5 or 6 years earlier a bunch of people got murdered. We're going to go back there for a romantic weekend? No. No, we're not. We're not going anywhere near this cabin. I'm going to burn the fucking cabin down. I'm going to drive in the other direction. They have to cross that creepy ass bridge, which gets rolled up, and like, no, So I know it's a cop out answer, Patrick, but the reality is I'm not going anywhere near this cabin. So there's no chance I'm going to get infected by deadites.
And for the exact same reason is why I am dying. Because nothing to me says more of a romantic evening or a romantic weekend getaway than going to a murder cabin in the middle of nowhere. Because I'm going to be the person who goes, there's no deadites there. That didn't happen. That's not a thing. Then we go there and the whole thing breaks loose. And what we do know about the deadites is once they get a hold of you, you're fucked. You are just fucked 10 ways to Sunday. There are ways out. And, maybe I would try my damnedest, but, deadites always seem to get you.
Could you conceivably find yourself lopping your wife's head off though? Come on now.
If she immediately becomes a deadite in front of me, I'm doing her a favor. She doesn't want to be cursed.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm just not going anywhere near the fucking cabin. So yeah, have fun at your murder cabin.
It's digging that hole that's going to piss me off and be like, oh, I didn't want to dig a hole. I did not come out here to dig a hole.
That's rough. Patrick, next category. What are we anticipating from Evil Dead Burn? And let me start by saying I try as best I can never to go into movies with expectations. You know this is one of the things that drives me nuts. But I will say, guilty pleasure, right? Or guilty right here, point the finger at me. I'm pretty excited for this movie, so I can't help myself but be a little bit anticipating. So what are you anticipating from this movie?
I'm right there with you, Damon, because really enjoyed all of the modern Evil Dead movies, and I'm like, so far I've liked them all. And I've known less and less each time going in. I've seen less and less each time going in. What I love is Sebastian Vanacek had a great point of view in Infested. He was clearly talking about something. He had a message on top of everything else he was doing. That I feel is going to be the biggest difference between that and the other movies. Not that the other movies don't, especially Fetty's. I feel like Fetty's really has something to say. I do feel like Evil Dead Rise is a little bit more about family, but again, like it sort of follows the pattern. It just follows the pattern with a family. If Sebastian Vanacek has a message in there on top of all that, because I do, for all the great dread and thrills of Infested, it was about class warfare. It was ultimately about class warfare. If he wants to add that in, if he wants to create that wrinkle in the Evil Dead franchise, I'm 100% down for it. I'm 100% with it. And there's one other thing, and it's a quote that I believe you brought up when we talked about Infested, because we announced on that podcast that he had been tapped to direct an Evil Dead movie. He said, I want to hurt the audience with Evil Dead. Sign me the fuck up, Damon. He is from the land of French Extremity. French Extremity, very famously, Martyrs. There's a couple other ones in there, Calvaire, and hey, I'm forgetting the rest. The point is, there's a bunch of French movies that go so damn hard, most people only one time watch them. And he, I think, in the back of his mind, knows that, and he's like, I have to be the most hardcore Evil Dead movie. Now, if he's not, that's fine. I have Evil Dead 2013. I have Evil Dead Rise. They went hard. If this one matches those or goes slightly less hard, I'm not going to be like, wow, so disappointed. But I have a feeling he feels the need to represent the French in this respect, and I hope he does.
I've got a problem here, Patrick, because when Evil Dead came out in 2013, I had zero expectations because Fede Alvarez was basically a new filmmaker in my eyes at that point. I don't think I'd ever heard of him before at that point. And going in, I just kept thinking, oh, it's a remake. Now, coming out, I was like, this movie's fucking phenomenal. I had no idea what I was stepping into. Came out a huge fan. Evil Dead Rise, I did see a couple trailers, I admit, and it, looked good, looked a little different, but I knew the way it was playing looked like a straight up horror movie, not like comedy, not goofy. But I had no idea who Lee Cronin was. Never heard the guy before that. I was like, all right, cool, let's see. I know who Sebastian Vanacek is. We reviewed Infested. Go back and listen to that episode. We loved that movie. It's a movie about an apartment building in France infested with these just ginormous, like deadly spiders. And it's literally a race for your life. And if that sounds like, oh, it's arachnophobia, trust me, it's not.
Very different.
But yeah, I brought up that quote. I want to hurt the audience, and I'm like, he's French. He likes horror, and his other movie is awesome. So my expectations are unrealistically high because of that. So I'm not I'm not going in cold. I'm certainly not going in cold, not knowing the director. I'm going in hot, and I know the director and know his work. So I have big expectations. I hate to say it, I do, but unless, I just can't see this guy. And I know I'm based on one movie. I've not gone and scouted out everything he's ever done in his career. But if that one guy who made Infested had that attitude going into this movie, I want to hurt the audience, I'm ready. I am just, put the fucking sledgehammer to my skull. I am ready. And I have a hard time believing after Evil Dead Rise, which goes really hard, by the way. That movie does not pull punches. If they were like, we're going to do that, 4 years ago, whatever, here's the keys to the kingdom to make the next one. Yeah. I just have a hard time believing they're going to be like, oh, a cheese grater on the leg? No, we can do worse than that. So yeah, I just have a feeling this is going to be like one of those really brutal, gruesome horror films we're going to be talking about at the end of the year. I'm not even saying it's going to be one of the best. I'm not setting myself up for failure with that. But in terms of like the brutality of it, I have a hard time believing we're going to walk out with, man, that really could have used a couple more blood scenes. No, I feel like we're going to get plenty.
Little tame, Sebastian.
Yeah. Yeah. He's from France. Go watch French horror and you'll be like, man, we Americans are just pussies. God damn.
Yeah, they go super fucking hard. Yeah, Damon and I are coming into Evil Dead Burn hot. But at the same time, I feel like it really can't disappoint. If it follows the weird formula about this franchise is this works. People bump into the Deadites and the Deadites possess the fuck out of them and try to rip their bodies apart. Like that
Yeah.
that's always going to be the skeleton of these movies. So you're like, yeah, I think it's going to be fine. Like I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, they found a really cool and inventive way to do it in an apartment building for the last one. I don't know where this one takes place or how it starts or who gets infected. No clue. But I
Don't
know it's
know.
going to happen, and I know there's going to be some brutality in here. And like I said, if the French guy can't pull off brutality, nobody can. That's all I'm saying.
It's true.
Patrick, last category, is it groovy? Not is it scary, but is it groovy? So when you look back at Evil Dead 2, is it groovy?
Damon, this is exactly groovy. And that's why I teed it up for that because I was like, that's exactly what this movie is for a lot of people. It's fun, it's campy, it delivers on blood, guts, and gore, and it's a good time. Like that's one thing I can say about it for sure, even though it's not my favorite movie in this franchise. I know it's a good time, and I know that when people put this on, they have fun with it and they're enjoying it. And it really has becomes a midnight movie, like a group thing where people are just like, this movie makes me have all the wonderful feels. I can't be mad at that.
If you love this movie, I imagine the vast majority of you out there probably look at this as like a warm blanket. You could watch it when you go to bed. You just love it. Like if it's on, you got to watch it. I know our friend Sid, Horror Chronicles, talks about she falls asleep every night watching It Chapter 1. Like she watches like every night to go to bed. It's like how she falls asleep. How can you watch? Just for me, I don't know if you have a comfort movie. Mine is Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter movie. I love Prince of Darkness. It's such a fun movie. It doesn't get nearly as much credit as the rest of his catalog, but I love Prince of Darkness, and it's like one of those movies just like I could watch it, put it on, and just fall asleep. It's like a comfort movie for me. That's Evil Dead for a lot of people. Evil Dead 2. That's Evil Dead 2 for a lot of people. They're just like I just feel like so nostalgic, and I just love everything about it, the effects, the goofiness, the comedy, the Bruce Campbell of it all. So yeah, it's goofy, and like I said, not to repeat what we've said like a dozen times already, it may not totally work for us, but I know there is a rabid fan base out there that adores this movie, and it's like I said, it's like their childhood. It's like what they love about horror. It's what got them into horror. So can't fault anybody for that. Whether it works for me or not really doesn't matter. But I know this is like the warm cup of cocoa before you go to bed for a lot of people.
I wonder how many people are going to be unsubscribing from us after this episode.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we didn't go that hard. Like,
We didn't go hard.
still,
I don't hate because I don't hate this movie. I don't. I
yeah,
don't. I don't have any hate for it. I don't. I just don't love it the way other people love it. Like
yeah,
I think this movie is perfectly serviceable. It's perfectly fine. I'd probably put it on for my kids if I'll be honest with you. Like, be like, yeah, watch this. It's kind of some goofy, weird shit. And
yeah,
that's like there's nothing wrong with this movie. I just don't love it like you do.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly it. It's like I know you are a huge Beetlejuice fan,
Yeah, love Beetlejuice.
and I despise Tim Burton with the Fire of a Thousand Suns. He's made like two. He's made like two movies that don't make me want to throw myself out a window. Batman 1989 and Batman Returns might be the two. But yeah, like
Great movies.
I get it. I understand people love that movie. They love that. They love Beetlejuice. I'm not saying I can watch Beetlejuice, but it's just not my favorite thing in the world. I just don't get the same appeal a lot of people get. That's kind of Evil Dead 2 for me. Like I get it. I understand why you love it.
Sure.
And I've seen it now 6 or 7 times, so clearly I've revisited it for some reason. It's just not the thing that I'm like, man, what are we going to we're gonna watch a classic horror movie now. What are we going to put on? Evil Dead 2. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Can we put on Martyrs?
Yeah.
I need a
But
comfort
hey,
movie. Can we put Martyrs on?
if we have any fans out there that live anywhere in the Midwest, I'm in Ohio, anywhere within and by the way, Midwest means like a 5-hour driving distance. We go everywhere in the Midwest. We drive everywhere. If anyone knows or ever hears of a midnight screening of Evil Dead 2, the good one, the fun one, hit your boy up. I will absolutely go and see if it doesn't play different for me, and I bet you it will, because with the crowd hollering and screaming and chanting the lines and laughing, I bet you this movie would probably appeal to me a lot more, just like Rocky Horror Picture Show did. So if you ever hear about it, hit up your boy. I will take the drive to go see Evil Dead 2 at a midnight show if it's somewhere relatively close to where I
And that's a treat. I've seen multiple movies with Damon.
am. Yes, I know it's an experience. With that being said, folks, we appreciate. Obviously, like I said, we're previewing this because next week we are going to be doing Evil Dead Burns. You already know what's coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. As always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the podcast. Make sure you check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel. YouTube, just search "Rewind to the Living Dead." Our website, rewindtothelivingdead.com. And if you want to skip all the ads, we do have ads to help pay the bills around here now. Go to patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. $5 a month. You get ad-free episodes, but you also get so much more. We're not going to run down the list again, but it's a lot for $5 a month. So go check that out. You got questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review. If you do find a midnight show, hit us up. rotlivingdead@gmail.com. livingdead@gmail.com, or hit us up on social media. Once again, just search Rewind of the Living Dead. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. And we are on Twitter/X. Hit us up anytime over there. And you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And as always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you then.
Peace.